Okay, we're moving on today to the next few pages. Again, make sure you have your calculator so you can follow along with me and type this stuff in. Okay, this is just like what we did yesterday as far as the mean absolute deviation. Lots of steps, easy steps if you put them in your calculator. Let me pull up my calculator real quick. While I'm doing that, y'all can go ahead and type these numbers right here across the top into your calculator and start calculating the mean. That is the very first question right here, number 10. What is the mean? And then we'll fill in our deviations, which will help us answer question number 10. So again, in order to enter these in there, we press the stat button. We are going to edit, and then you enter the numbers into L1. 20, 18. And again, once you get those in, you press stat again. Calculate this time, the very first one which says one variable, and go down to calculate, and it pulls it all up right there. Remember, this X with the line over it is our mean. So our mean is 9.8, so the answer to question B, or question 9, sorry, is B, 9.8. Remember, when we're filling in these deviations, we are going to do our mean and subtract every single point from that. Okay, it's already going to go ahead and make them positive for us. Okay, so right off the bat, if my first point is 20, and I subtract the mean from that, there's no way I'm getting 78. Okay, so if I do 20 minus that 9.8, I end up with 10.2. So this chart right here has to be my deviation chart. Remember, the deviation is the mean minus the data point. And always positive. Okay, don't forget, yesterday, or whenever it was, I wrote these steps over here in the side. Okay, I went ahead and wrote the calculator steps over here for you. So if you need to go back and look those guys up again, go ahead and do that. Calculator steps are going to be calculating this is much easier with the calculator steps. Okay, now that we have our deviation chart, in order to find the mean absolute deviation, we type these guys into our calculator and calculate the mean just like we did before. Okay, the problem with these guys, we don't use negatives. Remember, we only want the absolute, which is the positive version. Okay, so if there's negatives, go ahead and remove those. And then enter the ones that I just circled in red. Go ahead and enter those into your calculator. Stat again. We're going to edit. To clear the list, go up to L1, make sure it's highlighted, hit clear and enter, and it clears the whole thing out for you. And then we're going to enter these numbers. So y'all go ahead and do that along with me. And again, once you get them entered, hit the stat button again. This time we're calculating something. Go over to calculate. One variable. And it is going to pop up right there, 5.24.
So that answer choice is D, not write with a white colored marker on white. White on white does not work. Okay, so the mean absolute deviation is D. In my calculator, the mean was 5.24. Okay, the next question, how many players in this group scored within one mean absolute deviation of the mean? So remember, we have to take our mean, which was 9.8. We are going to add the mean absolute deviation to it and subtract it. We're getting ourselves a range of players, okay, a range of people. So 9.8 plus the mean absolute, 9.8 minus the mean absolute. So let's see what our range is. $15.04 for that one. And 4.56. Okay, so again, what does that mean? We are looking for the players that scored between 4.56 points and 15.04. Okay, so that's the range of players I'm looking for, between 4.56 all the way to 15.04. Okay, so let's look at our chart that we have right here. Okay, so these guys did not score nearly enough. Neither did this one. He has to be at least 4.56. 4 points does not cut it. All the way up to these two actually scored too many points, which I know sounds ridiculous, but the question that we're asking wants to know how many people scored within that deviation, so it is 5 people. Okay, flip it. Okay, again, same type of question we just did. Same type of question. Let's see, 9 through 14, I'll go right here with this ages of a pickup basketball game. Okay, so y'all go ahead and enter those numbers in your calculator, and I will do it also. Okay, I have all my data entered in my calculator right here. So again, stat, over to calculate this time. I need to get the mean. Mean is my first step before I can do anything. And clearly I have made a mistake because that is not one of the answer choices. So let me see if I can figure out, oh, well that would be the problem right there. 11, not 111. Okay, so the mean average of the players' ages was 30. Okay, that is the first step in order to calculate the deviations. So now let's fill in these deviations. Remember, the mean of 30 minus each one of these data points. Okay, so go ahead and jot these in real quick. Always positive, don't forget that. Okay, because 30 minus 61 would actually give you a negative 31. But we want it to be a positive range, a positive number. Okay, so pull up your calculator. Now that we have our deviations, we're going to put those in our calculator. So go ahead and type those in your calculator. And of course, calculate the mean from that. Okay, the mean absolute that I got when I put these in my calculator was 15. Okay, and then we're down to the range question again. Okay, how many players in this group have an age that is within one mean absolute deviation
of the mean. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. I take the mean, I go one mean absolute deviation in the positive direction, and I go one step in the negative direction. Okay, so I'm looking for an age range of players between the ages of 15 and 45. Okay, so I want to know how many players are between age 15 and 45. Okay, he's too old. He's too old. On the downside of that, these two are too young. Okay, so this one has how many? 6 players. Okay, number 13 is very similar to that, except this time it wants to know within 2. So if my mean absolute deviation, if one mean absolute deviation is 15, then 2 mean absolute deviations would be 30. Looks like math. Okay, so now I take my mean again, go one step in the positive direction, and I go it's actually 2 steps in the negative direction. So 30 plus 30 is 60 and 0. So basically I'm looking for newborns all the way up to 60 years old. Okay? So that only eliminates these 2 people right here. So I'm talking about 8 players. Okay, and this one goes along with it. What ages are more than 2 mean absolute deviations from the mean? Well, that was my 61-year-old and my 63-year-old. Okay, volleyball players. All it wants you to do for this one, oh wait, I think it goes on to the next page, doesn't it? No, it does not. Okay, let's actually skip this one, just because we're missing all the questions. Okay, let's skip this one and move on to the next page. Okay, this is actually asking us to do a histogram, which is actually something y'all did in middle school. Okay, maybe even elementary school. Okay, I'm pretty sure my kids went around and polled their classes about their favorite color out of these colors, or their favorite candy out of these candy options, and they made, I believe they called it tally marks, but then they went down and sat back down at their desk and they created what was called a histogram. It looked like this. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take these numbers and basically give a tally in the category that it belongs to. Okay, so 50 would go right here in this category, between 41 and 60. 42 would also go in that category. 119 isn't even on this chart, so he just gets eliminated. 45 is in this category. 68 is the next step. 32, y'all see what's happening here? Just keep tallying it up. Eliminated. Eliminated. Okay, and when you're done, you can go through and count how many tally marks or tick marks you did. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a bar graph pretty much. Okay, how many people did we have that had between 1 and 20? None, so I don't have to do anything there. Between 21 and 40, I had 4 people, so I'm going to do myself a little bar graph. right here between 21 and 40. If you want to color it in, go for it. If not, leave it like it is. Okay, between 41 and 60, I had 6 people. Oops, that was a crappy line. 61 and 80 was 7 people. And my last category only had 2 people. Okay, I know this seems very elementary and something that y'all probably are laughing at doing right now, but this is a histogram. Okay, this is something you need to be sure you understand how to create. Okay, 2 easy ways to look at a set of data and be able to pull information out of it. And that's it for today.